Are you the kind of real estate investor that says, oh, I've got my guy? If so, you could be in for some big problems. Check out this video where I talk about some of the downfalls of just having one handyman or one contractor that your real estate business is completely dependent on. You could inadvertently be creating an employee relationship with the contractor, but more importantly, you're passing up great opportunities to expand your network and build your net worth. So please like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to this channel, and if you got any questions, drop it down below in the comments and I'd love to address it on a future talk. Enjoy. There's a very true saying that your network is your net worth. I think as a landlord, it's really important to think about this because every time you have a problem, every time you're going to spend money, or every time you need to solve something for someone, that's an opportunity to solidify or expand your network. And so if you're just going out and solving problems or paying for service providers to fix things, you're really missing out on one of the biggest opportunities that you have, and that's expanding your network. So one of the ways to think about this with contractors is every time you have jobs that need done, every time there's some kind of service work that has to happen, that's a great opportunity to expand the network of service providers that you use. Why is that important? I know one of the big counter arguments to this might be, well, if I use the same person all the time, they'll know that I'm super loyal to them and they're always going to prioritize me. And to an extent that's true, but if they have jobs lined up and you need them on a specific day and they can't get to you, now you're stuck because you only have one service provider that you ever use. And so now on the day that you need something to happen, your network is limited to that one provider, and so you're unable to accomplish whatever task it is that you need to get done that day. Another thing is by having multiple service providers that you are loyal to, you're able to shop for prices because pricing is going to change. Sometimes maybe somebody can't do something for a price that's affordable for you or it's reasonable. And so by having multiple providers in your network, you're able to go ahead and shop for prices and use the best service provider that's available for that particular job that you have coming up. So when you're talking about service providers, your network is really very important to maintain a healthy network, and so having a variety of service providers that you can call on is going to be important going forward. So if you're always using the same service provider all the time, while there is loyalty there, and that's valuable, you can miss out on the opportunity to be able to shop for providers when you need it, or also to shop for terms when you need it. So possibly you're running into a cash flow situation and you have multiple providers. Well, you could ask them, hey, who's willing to do this job and accept payment terms at a later date for this? Well, if you only have one person that you've been working with and they can't accept payments at that time, you've kind of dug yourself into a hole. So broadening that network is something that you should look for every single time you have a maintenance job coming up. Another thing to watch out for if you're hiring the same contractors repeatedly is you could inadvertently be creating an employee for your business. The Department of Labor recently said that up to 30% of businesses are probably utilizing contractors that should actually be employees. This gets into a big problem when we're talking about things like unemployment, whether or not you need to have unemployment insurance on your workers, whether you need to be paying workman's comp for those workers, because if inadvertently some of those end up being classified as employees that you thought were contractors, you're going to owe a lot of money in back pay. For those, you're going to owe a lot of money back. I don't know what that's called. You're going to owe a lot of money. So it's important that if you do have a contractor, they are actually a contractor and not an employee. I'm not a lawyer. This isn't practicing law. This isn't legal advice. So definitely consult a labor lawyer before you make your own decisions. But there's generally 3 accepted tests of whether someone's a contractor or an employee. The first one is benefits. So what is the benefit relationship of the job? Some of the things that they're looking for here are, does the employee get to make their own decisions about what they do, or does the company have the right to make the decisions about how they do their work? The extent of whether the company or the employee makes their decisions helps determine whether it's a contractor or an employee. So for example, if you're a strict employee, you're going to be told everything to do by the company. Whereas if you're a contractor, you're going to determine 100% how you want to do things yourself. Now obviously, there's no totally black and white answer here, so it's a sliding scale. Other things that would be pretty obvious would be, if people are contracted for a specific job, they have their own business, they do their own work, then that's going to be pretty clear cut. Where we get into gray areas is when we're hiring handymen and things like that. You can check out my video on handymen. We'll put a link to it either in the info card up above or down below or at the end of this video. But when you're hiring handymen, there's a lot of gray areas that you want to make sure that you're not inadvertently creating an employee-employer relationship with the contractor, and one of the ways you can avoid doing that is simply by using different contractors. The next thing is financial. So what's the financial relationship between the person paying and the person getting paid? If it's a paycheck, obviously that's an employee, but just by the fact that you're paying them individual checks doesn't necessarily make it a contractor relationship. If you're regularly paying someone cash or checks, they could still inadvertently be an employee. Another thing with the financial test is how much of the tools required to do the job is the employer providing. This is something when you're running handymen, you run into a huge risk because when you're hiring handymen, you're probably getting the materials for them. You're probably supplying them with tools occasionally. You may even be transporting materials to and from the job. That could start to look a lot like an employer rather than a contractor relationship. Again, one of the easiest ways to avoid this, simply use different handymen. If you're using different handymen, there's no way that you have an ongoing employee-employer relationship with that person that you've accidentally created. And then the last one are the I forget what the name of it is, but it's like the benefits and type of work. So are you providing benefits? Are you is the employee regularly using things that belong to the company, things like that? Again, not a lawyer, so I don't know. But the big thing you can see is the litmus test in the eyes of the court and in the eyes of the IRS is not black and white. And so you as an employer, especially if you're using handymen that could start to blend into this gray area of employee, you want to be very careful that you are not creating an employee-employer relationship, and you're doing all you can to make sure that it's very clear that the person has a contract relationship. And again, one of the best ways to do it, make sure you bid out jobs or regularly rotate through the contractors that you're using.